The string quartet had just begun its final piece, a soft adagio that swelled in the candlelit ballroom of the Montgomery Country Club. 300 guests lifted their champagne flutes in unison, voices rising in a toast to Robert and Elaine Sinclair, beloved pillars of the community, on the occasion of their 30th wedding anniversary. The air shimmered with white gold fairy lights, the scent of peonies drifted from ornate centerpieces, and the guests' laughter glinted like stolen diamonds. Robert, stalwart and handsome in his midnight blue tux, clasped Elaine's hand as they moved to the center of the dance floor. Elaine, radiant in a sapphire gown that mirrored her eyes, leaned in to whisper, "30 years, my love. I wouldn't trade a moment." He smiled, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Neither would I," he murmured, voice thick with emotion. Their circle of friends erupted into applause as the quartet softened its final notes. But in that fleeting stillness, between the last violin trill and the gentle hush that follows, Elaine's eyes flickered with something Robert didn't know: remorse. Behind the gauzy drapes, in the shadow of a moonlit terrace, a figure emerged. Tall, lean, with the same piercing green eyes Elaine had passed down to their daughter Celia. Jack Sinclair stepped into the glow of the ballroom's French windows. The room fell into an uneasy silence as whispers rippled through the crowd. At first, Robert laughed and raised his glass in recognition of a close family friend, until Jack removed his tuxedo jacket, revealing a simple white shirt beneath, and lifted a hand in belated greeting. "Dad." The single word, measured and raw, cut through the room like a blade. Elaine's gasp collided with Robert's Christmas tree-bright smile, twisting it into confusion. Celia and Marcus, Elaine and Robert's two children, froze mid-applause, eyes locking on the curious stranger who called their father Dad. Murmured questions filled the space. "Who is he? Why is he calling Robert Dad?" Robert's brow furrowed. "Jack." He took a step forward, voice unsteady. Who are you?" Jack lifted his chin, the soft spotlight revealing the sinew of his jaw. "I'm the son you never knew you had." A hush so complete it felt like the air had been drained from the room settled over the guests. Elaine's hands flew to her mouth, tears pooling as her carefully curated world unraveled before 300 pairs of scandal-hungry eyes. In that electric heartbeat, 30 years of marriage, community esteem, and loving family facade shattered. The crowd, eager for spectacle, pressed forward, cameras flashing. Elaine's secret, guarded for 3 decades, had exploded in public humiliation. Robert's face drained of color, his fingers trembling on Elaine's arm. "Elaine, explain." His voice, once steady as bedrock, cracked like a shattered promise. Elaine's sapphire gown felt suddenly too bright, too loud. She swallowed, stepping back into Robert's embrace, her voice catching on a tide of shame and relief. There's so much you don't know." As the first sob escaped her lips, guests exchanged sympathetic glances and curious glances in equal measure. The night's joyful symphony turned into a discordant chord of shock, betrayal, and raw possibility. Every vow, every memory, every truth they'd built their lives on now hung in the balance. In the hush that followed, Elaine realized that the only way forward would mean confronting a past she had buried, and grappling with a child who demanded recognition in the spotlight of her own undoing. For 30 years, Robert and Elaine Sinclair had embodied the ideal couple. They met as undergraduates. Robert, a charismatic economics major. Elaine, a bright political science student with a passion for community service. Their whirlwind romance led to marriage in a sun-drenched chapel, and from that day forward they built a life of mutual respect, shared ambition, and public devotion. Home and family. Their Georgian-style home on Maple Avenue hosted countless dinner parties, charity galas, and holiday gatherings. Elaine's annual Spring Garden fundraiser raised tens of thousands for local schools. Robert's financial acumen fueled the nonprofit's growth. Careers and community. Robert climbed the corporate ladder at Hawthorne Capital, earning a reputation for integrity. Elaine balanced volunteer work with her career as a children's librarian, beloved by neighborhood families. Parenting and legacy. Daughter Celia, 28, pursued journalism. Son Marcus, 25, studied architecture. Both admired their parents' partnership. Their 30th anniversary was to be the pinnacle, a lavish soiree celebrating decades of love. Yet behind the gracious smiles lay quiet sacrifices. Elaine had deferred career advancement to raise their children, her own ambitions shelved. Robert, ever supportive, shouldered extra work to provide. Late nights at the office and school plays watched from the wings went unseen by Elaine's deepest longings. Still, they never complained. Each found fulfillment in the other's success. As guests filed in that evening, giddy with champagne fizz, no one suspected that beneath the gleaming chandeliers lay a fault line ready to crack open everything they'd built. The party's crescendo arrived when Robert raised his glass for a toast to 30 years of partnership, love, and family. Applause thundered. Elaine, radiant in emerald silk, returned the toast. To the man who made every day an adventure. At that moment, the grand doors swung open. A hush rippled through the crowd as Jack Sinclair, tall and intense, entered. His tailored suit and confident stride stood in stark contrast to the party's jovial mood. He paused at the threshold, scanning the room until his eyes found Robert. "Dad," Jack said, voice calm but firm. Robert's face blanched. He lowered his glass. "Jack?" His voice trembled. Elaine froze, her smile faltering. "Jack?" she echoed. Jack folded his arms. 30 years of secrets. I think it's time you all meet me." Murmurs swelled. Parents and in-laws exchanged shocked glances. Celia and Marcus stood, mouths agape. A dozen phones raised to capture the moment. The DJ's music cut off abruptly. Robert picked his way through the crowd. "What are you talking about?" Jack's gaze sharpened. My mother, had me in college. You never told me who my father was." Elaine's hand flew to her throat. She stepped forward, voice quavering. "Robert, please." Jack raised a palm. "Let me finish." He pulled an old, faded photo from his pocket. Elaine, radiant in a party dress, cradling a newborn. Him. "I have paperwork, DNA test results, and every letter you wrote me in that year you called me your secret. I want my place in this family." The room erupted. Laughter turned to gasps. Guests backed away. Robert's shoulders slumped as the weight of Jack's words settled. Elaine's eyes brimmed with tears as her perfect facade shattered in a single public moment. In the stunned silence that followed, loyalties fractured like glass. Robert's fury. His face went ashen as he grabbed Jack's photo. "Elaine, what is this?" He led Elaine to a quiet corner, voice low and furious. 30 years of marriage, and you hid this child? Elaine's guilt. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I was young and scared. I thought I could handle it alone." She confessed. A brief college affair with a fellow student, a hasty medical decision to give Jack up. Then decades of regret. Celia and Marcus. Celia's journalistic instincts kicked in. "So all those summer visits I thought were college friends? You had a son?" Marcus's hand trembled as he texted, "Mom, this can't be real." Guests whispered behind half-turned backs. "Can you imagine?" And "What would you do?" Friends shared sympathetic glances while others edged toward the exit. In the living room, Robert faced Jack. "Why now?" he demanded. Jack met his gaze. "Because I need to know if you're my father." He handed Robert an envelope of documents, a paternity test, custody papers, and a letter from Elaine asking him to wait. Robert tore it open, scanning the majestic script. As the DNA results confirmed Jack's paternity, his anger melted into horror. "Oh, God," he whispered, knuckles white. "Elaine, why didn't you trust me?" Elaine's shoulders shook. "I was ashamed. I thought I could protect our life." That night, the Sinclairs retreated to their study, once a sanctuary, now a crucible of confession. Over cups of untouched coffee, Elaine confessed every detail. The college romance. She met Jack's father, Mark Evans, at a political rally. Their passion burned bright but ended abruptly when Mark left for graduate school. The choice. Pregnant and alone, Elaine feared judgment. With Mark unreachable, she arranged for Jack's adoption through a private agency, promising to write, but never following through. The guilt. Every anniversary, every milestone, Elaine had drafted letters she never sent. Each unmailed envelope carried the weight of what might have been. Robert listened, grief and compassion warring in his chest. "I should have sent something," he murmured. Elaine reached for his hand. "I know. I'm so sorry." In the study's hushed glow, they made tentative decisions. Jack would stay as long as he wished. They would seek legal counsel on paternity rights, and above all, they would face the fallout together. By morning, word had spread beyond the club. Local news vans lined the driveway. Social media posts speculated. "Mayor's wife has a secret son?" "Scandal rocks Sinclair dynasty." Neighbors whispered over white picket fences, and Elaine's colleagues at the library offered awkward condolences. Robert's firm issued a brief statement. "We are addressing a private family matter." Elaine's volunteer groups delayed events. Celia's editor asked for quiet updates, while Marcus's architecture firm circulated internal memos urging discretion. But discretion was impossible. Jack's face circulated on Instagram. Snarky memes joked about his late arrival to the party. Elaine's friends offered support, but each outreach carried a shade of pity. The Sinclairs moved through a haze of scrutiny. Once admired, now pitied. Amid the storm, the Sinclairs sought healing. Legal steps. Robert consulted family law attorney Susan Park, who explained Jack's rights to inheritance and visitation. They filed for joint custody recognition, willing to share equally. Family therapy. Elaine, Robert, and Jack attended sessions with psychologist Dr. Lena Morales, specializing in adoption trauma and marital betrayal. Jack voiced his hurt. "You were my mom all these years. Why hide me?" Elaine wept, acknowledging her fear and vowing transparency. Sibling bonds. Celia and Marcus met Jack at a casual brunch. Initial awkwardness gave way to cautious camaraderie as shared childhood stories. School fairs, holiday traditions, revealed their common ground. Slowly, trust began to stitch itself back together. Robert and Jack shared fishing trips. Elaine and Jack toured her favorite library section. Celia showed Jack her newsroom, and Marcus sketched house plans with his new brother in mind. 3 weeks after the anniversary, the Sinclairs hosted a low-key family BBQ in their backyard. Elaine grilled burgers. Robert manned the smoker. Celia and Marcus set out photo albums, and Jack laughed as he tossed a football with neighborhood kids. As twilight fell, Elaine raised a glass of lemonade. "To our family, old and new." Robert nodded, eyes shining. Celia joined in. "To brotherhood." Marcus added, "To second chances." Jack smiled, tears bright. "To finally coming home." In that warm glow, forgiveness blossomed. The Sinclairs, now 4, found that love, however tested, could expand to embrace new beginnings. Legal advice, family law attorney. Establish paternity promptly. File for DNA confirmation to protect the child's inheritance and parental rights. Update estate plans. Amend wills and beneficiary designations to include newly acknowledged children. Consider mediation. Use neutral mediators for custody and support agreements to reduce conflict. Psychological advice, therapist. Open communication. Encourage honest dialogue in a safe setting. Validate each person's emotions. Family therapy. Engage a licensed therapist specializing in adoption and family dynamics for guided healing. Self-care practices. Each member should maintain personal support, friends, support groups, and self-reflection. Just as the Sinclairs looked forward to a peaceful future, phone notifications pinged with a new scandal. Rachel Harper's social media feed exploded with whispers of her husband's affair, with none other than her lifelong best friend. Headlines blared, "Best friend betrays bride," and "Friendship on fire, adultery, jealousy, and revenge." Rachel, devastated and furious, faces a harrowing choice: expose them in a public spectacle, or seek a path of forgiveness that might save her marriage, if she can ever trust again. Next up, friendship on fire. Witness a best friend betrayal that ignites a conflict of loyalty, passion, and redemption. Will Rachel's rage consume her, or will mercy light the way forward?